Hey bookfellas and bellas, Kira here, and I'm going to be discussing a book that I just recently read, and I'm very, very pleased with it. It was definitely a different experience from a lot of other books that I have read in the past, and I'm just going to get right to it. Recently, I read a book by Patrick Ness. It's one of his new books that just came out. It's And the Ocean Was Our Sky. It's written from the perspective of Bathsheba, who is this female apprentice who's learning how to hunt in the ocean. They sail around in a ship that's commanded by Captain Alexandra, and she is the greatest hunter in the entire ocean. She has 3 apprentices, and Bathsheba is the 3rd apprentice. From a very young age, it was prophesied by Bathsheba's grandmother that she would be a hunter. So that's exactly what she grew up to be, a hunter. Captain Alexandria is teaching them how to hunt using echolocation. All of the things up until now have been very human, except for the fact they're not. You don't really realize until the 3rd chapter where it's explicitly foretold that this is all being told from a perspective of whales. What I really liked about this is that at first they introduced these characters as being very human, having very human characteristics, and then they go on to tell you that, well, they're not human. Also made the story a lot more immersive and a lot more relatable. Now, on a grander scale, it was kind of hard to visualize that these giant whales had their own ship. What I didn't mention at the beginning is that this book is illustrated by Rowena Kay, and so the less tangible images, these things like that were on such a grand scale, were very easy to imagine simply because we had illustrations to go along with them. Now, these whales hunt men. They believe men are evil. Men hunt whales. So during the time that Captain Alexandra is teaching her 3 apprentices on how to use echolocation, they are trying to locate a vessel that has been wrecked. And so by the time they finally locate it, they get there and there's pieces of this ship everywhere. When Captain Alexandria sees the wreckage, she immediately says, "This is the work of Toby Wick." What was really interesting about this was that these whales had this whole mythology regarding Toby Wick. Toby Wick is seen as this evil, unknown shaped being that needs to be hunted and defeated. So in the mythology, they're all about having the pure of hunt. It's kind of like this holier than thou mentality where, like I hunt more than you do, or my intentions of hunting is more pure than your intentions of hunting. And that's in between the ship's captains. When they find this wreckage, there is one man left alive who is holding this coin that has representation for 3 mountains on it. And he is alive. His name is Demetrius. And they decide to take him hostage to ask him some questions regarding Toby Wick. Another thing that was really fascinating about this is that they had their own technology. They used a chemical from coral and from flatfish to make these breather masks so that the human can live underwater, which is precisely what they do, and they hold him hostage on their ship. Now these ships are fully submerged in the water. They are turned upside down. So this is a direct reflection of the title, For the Ocean Was Our Sky. Essentially, this is a retelling of Moby Dick from the whale's perspective, where in the Moby Dick book, Moby Dick was the one who was a mythological being, this giant whale from the sea. Well, now we have Toby Wick, who is this human, this evil human, who has a mythology on land. So Captain Alexandria, the other 2 apprentices, are all devout in this ideal that Toby Wick is out there. And being the fact that not very many people have ever seen them, all they hear is a lot of legends regarding him. Captain Alexandria, the other 2 apprentices, even a lot of the sailors, are very much devout in the idea of Toby Wick's existence. Bathsheba, however, is the non-believer. Bathsheba does not think that Toby Wick actually exists. The whole book takes place on the premise that Toby Wick is out there and he needs to be destroyed. Like, how far do you have to go, to become what you hate? Because Toby Wick is pure evil. And I really liked the deep-rooted mythology in this. It was definitely a different slice. Now this part is going to get a little bit spoilery because of the fact that I want to go into more depth about the ending and how we got to the end. And I don't want to ruin it for any of you. I know personally I'm not a huge fan of spoilers. So if you don't want to know how this book ends, then make sure that you stop watching this video right here. Okay, so I assume that if you're still here, you want the spoilers for the ending. So what happens is that this human hostage, Demetrius, is questioned regarding the whereabouts of Toby Mick and regarding the coin. And of course, he doesn't really want to tell them anything, and we're not really sure why he doesn't want to tell us anything. But there is a big reluctance for what he wants to tell us. Now, Bathsheba and Demetrius, as time goes on, kind of form a little bit of a friendship. So you find out that Demetrius' reluctance to tell Bathsheba anything regarding Moby Wick, not the fact that he is trying to save his own life, it is the fact that he is trying to save Bathsheba's because he has become emotionally attached to her. Now, there isn't any creepy romance going on here, which was something I really liked. I like the fact that they didn't unnecessarily add in a romance that they didn't need, especially between a fish and a person. That probably would have gotten kind of weird. There's also another detail that you find out that makes things even a little bit more interesting. Whales have to have echolocation in order to navigate themselves in the deep water because it's dark down there. They can't see. Captain Alexandria actually tells us this tale that she herself has met Toby Wick, and that at some point during that meeting, Toby Wick damaged her so much that she is navigating the seas blind. He made it impossible for her to use her echolocation. This makes her legend grow. So finally, Demetrius decides to say, okay, I'm going to go ahead and tell you guys where they're located. I'm not long for this world. My body was never meant to be submersed in the water. I mean, he's starting to be in a lot of pain. The liquid from the water is starting to soak through his skin, and he knows that that regardless of whether or not he can breathe, he's not long for this world. So they make it to the Three Mountains, and we do meet Moby Wick. Now, my biggest complaint about this book was that the meeting of Toby Wick was not anticlimactic. It was like he was evil to both man and whale. So he wasn't just a man, and he wasn't just a whale. He was a little bit of both. And I found that description very hard to grasp, and the illustrations actually didn't help me grasp his physical appearance because all they really showed you in the illustrations were his hands. I really like the fact that they touched on he was both evil to human and whale. They didn't give a good solid description of how he looked, and so it was on such a grand scale. I had a lot of problems visualizing it. I mean, the only thing that really comes to mind is that he was a whale with arms, and that's fine, but I don't know, like that part for me, you hear all through the book about who this evil Toby Wick is, and then you get to the end and, you know, it's just, I just wasn't very pleased with that personal description. I mean, a lot of the other descriptions were also on a grand scale, but I think they did an amazing job capturing those particular descriptions. I think what they did was they struggled a little bit with that last description of our main antagonist. There's this huge fight at the end between Captain Alexandria, the apprentice, and Bathsheba. And of course, you know, like the only person left standing is Bathsheba. Toby Wick does become defeated. He gets killed, and there's this enormous peace on the ocean. But Bathsheba, being the person that did not believe in Toby Wick at the beginning, is now fully immersed in the idea that Toby Wick is in fact real. Another thing that I really liked about this is that I know at the beginning of Moby Dick, they say, "They call me Ishmael." Well, I really liked how this book started out as well. It started out with him saying, "They call me Bathsheba." So it had a great big parallel to it. Overall, I gave this book 4 stars. Mainly because I liked the descriptions. The artwork was gorgeous in this. And I really appreciated the flip on the landscape and how the whale saw our world as being their land and their ocean as their sky. And I thought it was very creative. I thought it was very well done. I really enjoyed all the little details and little philosophies that went through this whole book. And I found a kind of truth in these deeper philosophies. Well guys, thank you so much for watching me. I will see you guys in another video soon. Much love.